I'm at the Red House with Kyle Kelly. Hey, man.
What's up?
Thanks for coming over.
Dude, thanks for having me.
Yeah. I'll kind of preface this the same way I did when I talked to our mutual friend Seth not too long ago. I saw y'all at the same songwriter swap, and it's just been I've had a couple of opportunities where things are just kind of refreshing, where I would meet artists sort of in the state of North Carolina who were, I guess from what I could tell, super song focused and like craft focused rather than just exclusively like doing the band thing, I guess.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I come across that a lot more like the band entity. But I was very excited about your voice, excited about your songwriting, and excited to cross paths with you.
Yeah, man, thanks.
Yeah. So let's learn about you, I guess.
All right.
Where did it all start?
So the first thing I remember, I fell in love with the drums around the age of 8, and I tell people this too. The movie Drumline was really like the thing that did it for me. Like, I don't know. I mean, I was always a big fan of rock and roll and stuff and growing up, but I remember seeing Nick Cannon playing drums. I was like, I got to learn how to play drums. I don't know, his was more obviously marching band style, but for some reason it was just like, I got to play the drums. So I started practicing with chopsticks in a tin can. That got on my mom and dad's nerves and my siblings' nerves really quick. And then guitar came around the age of 12. I started teaching myself, but and I always tell people this too, is like I was a very sports focused. I grew up, my dad was a kicker in college and football. My brother was baseball, football, and I'm the youngest of 3. My sister was cheerleader and track, and so like we were very sports focused and athletes in the family. So like I loved music, but sports was definitely my first love, and I just kind of always assumed that I was going to be a professional athlete. I guess which, growing up, everybody as a kid you have dreams and aspirations to do that. But I always kind of played music on the side, and I taught myself a little bit. I took lessons for like 3 months, if that, at our local music store. And then it was baseball season, so I kind of gave up that. But I always played and always learned how to play by just YouTube University, and that. And, so that's kind of where it all started. I think just like every other teenager, I got into the heavy metal rock, like Metallica, and then it just kind of went to, just full on 80s and went back to the 70s, 60s, and just kind of obviously got my education of the full spectrum of music, and I picked out what I liked with that. And it just kind of was a big melting pot of music for me, just what I liked, and I definitely liked stuff that other people, I wasn't listening to what everybody else was listening to back in middle school, high school, and everything. I was definitely listening to the rock, the old stuff, and everybody was listening to whatever was new at that time. And it was a little bit of I'd always get kind of made fun of because I'd want to get pumped up for a game or something, and I'd be listening to Skynyrd, and Skynyrd's my favorite band all time. Not for the stereotypical reasons that everybody else wants to use it for, but just the true songwriting of Ronnie Van Zant and Alan Collins, and just the whole band, the whole thing about them and how they came together and what they had to overcome and what they've done. A lot of people just look at Sweet Home Alabama or Freebird, and that's as far as they get. Yeah. And that's, I don't know. It's I tell people, Leonard Skinner, and they're automatically like, oh, he's just a redneck, and it's like, nah, I like it for reasons other than the obvious. Yeah. But it's so going back to like sports and stuff, I pretty much was dead set on becoming a professional athlete, and then I went to college for baseball at Catawba College in Salisbury. Got hurt, and all through that time I'd kind of slowly been picking up guitar a little bit more, and actually was playing drums a lot more. And I got hurt, and I was a lefty pitcher, and I blew out my elbow, and it was the decision of, okay, rehab, surgery, and then you're going to be here for 5 years. And at that point, it was like tuition's not cheap. And I was, of course, my parents were helping me out with that, and that was a very big blessing. But also, too, it was just like, I hate school. I don't like going to class. And I was like, I don't think I want to add another extra year to this. And I love baseball, but it's just, and also I forgot to kind of mention in there, I'm a big car enthusiast, and that's kind of how me and Seth know each other too.
Gotcha.
We like old stuff, and it kind of goes hand in hand with the music. And so I like tinkering with old cars, and that's definitely a big part of my image now, for sure. But definitely, got out of sports, and I started focusing on music, and really like the work ethic that I was having towards sports carried over to music. And all of a sudden, like, I'm super obsessed with music again, like I was when I was younger. And like, it was always a battle between the two. And then obviously cars at a young age made its way in there too. And I don't know, I like a lot of things, and I don't like to limit myself, and I like to keep the door open, because there's so many things that could happen, and you never know what could walk through the door, and you just have to be willing to accept it and run with it. And that's always kind of the attitude I've had. It's like, why not try this? Don't be identified as one single thing, because then if that thing ever disappears, well, then you might lose who you are. And I don't know, it's just kind of a facetious way to look at it maybe, but I just kind of cling to anything and everything, and try to find the beauty in everything as it is naturally, like that. And just like to explore and check things out. So not to drag it out and keep talking about it, but
That's what you're here for, bro.
yeah. So I graduate. Well, I start playing shows, I guess. Let me rephrase or backtrack a little bit. I started playing shows about my sophomore year, because I stopped playing ball. And I was a hired gun for drums. Played in a few bands for some different people, and graduated. And I was already playing guitar a lot more. And I guess really I started writing back in college around when I was 21, so my junior year. Started writing just things, just things I've seen, and I never really took it serious. And also, I didn't really start singing until I was, I guess, 20. It was in college when I started singing. I never professionally got lessons or anything like that. I just kind of started teaching myself. And I know what good sounding drums sound like, or what it sounds like to play along to something. So it's like I can judge myself pretty fairly, but I was definitely very nervous and, self-conscious about it, because you're being judged by other people, and you want other people to think you're good, because that's the only way. That's one way of measuring success, I guess you could say, is other people liking what you're doing.
You said something I want to remember, so please don't mind me.
No, you're fine. So that was a big thing. It was a big obstacle for me, was trying to overcome the pressures of letting people hear me sing. And, I basically kept chipping away at it, wrote a few songs, and then I kind of put that on the back burner a little bit, and then kept being a hired gun and going to play drums for buddies, and guitar a little bit here and there. And I'd sing cover songs, and I'd sing some more stuff that I'd kind of set down and tinkered with in my head. And I just kept having a lot of encouragement from friends and fellow musicians. Were like, man, you can do it. Like, you're really good. You can sing. You got a great outlook on how you're writing. It's different. It's not the norm. And, you should really think about trying to do your own thing. And I was like, well, that's great. And then also I'd battle with you're just saying that because you're my friend. And it's the real, I think every artist goes through it, is the self-conscious battle of, am I good enough situation? And one day it just kind of didn't mean anything to me, and I just started doing it. I started playing my shows and getting out there and really started hitting it hard and trying to write what I like, not necessarily what mainstream or whatever is popular. And I just was writing from a perspective of real experience for me, and also things that I've seen just from playing out. Because, you know, you play at these bars in the middle of nowhere and you're going to see a lot of stuff. I mean, it's all, you know, I guess, you know, people getting absolutely drunk and trying to cheat or are cheating and dancing with people that shouldn't be dancing with and doing things and hustling, game of pool and all that stuff. Like, you know, just things like that. And it's a wild thing to see it firsthand. And then, you know, I'd like to challenge myself to, like, okay, put myself in that person's shoes and what are they going through, and really try to feel what they're going through in their mental state and how they're making the decisions they are right now. And just, I don't know, it's a crazy thing to try to do, for sure. And sometimes I feel like I can speak from it from a point of relatability, but also try to put a little bit of fiction in there to just make a story. So that's a fun side of it. But yeah, I guess that's kind of a timeline of from the very beginning to kind of where I guess I started writing.
Yeah, and a little taste, it sounds like, of your perspective as a writer too.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, there's a lot in there that you just laid out that that can kind of act as common ground for us. And like, it kind of weirdly, a lot of common ground. Like, I started out as a drummer as a kid as well, you know, and like that kind of informed my path into music. I kind of inherited that from my family. Like, my dad was a drummer too and stuff. Cool. And also sports being kind of my primary sense, I think, of identity. And I was a little oblivious of myself and my own shortcomings, literally, at the time. But I wanted to be in the NBA and shit like that. And then, like, you know, toward the end of high school, I had no chance of playing in college or anything like that, but started realizing that this gap was going to be in my life, and music sort of filled that gap. Yeah. And as you were talking, one thing that came to mind that was interesting. So I'm curious to hear more about sports as a foundation for you. I'm curious to hear more about drums for you as a foundation for you. Yeah. And also, I want to come back to this idea about sort of being more than one thing. So why don't we just go in order? So sure. Sports as a foundation. I'm wondering if you have thoughts on what that trained you for, on what that equipped you with, I guess, and because it sounded like you took all the discipline that you had in sports and you just applied it to a whole different thing. Did you learn discipline through sports? Yeah, for sure. I learned, and I was actually just having this conversation with my nephew yesterday, actually, which is kind of funny. My nephew's like 10 years old, and he's super athletic. But, you know, growing up, and I was a pretty tall kid, and I was pretty athletic. I got by on natural ability. You know, there's always a learning curve coming up through middle school, high school, and you can get by on natural athletic ability if you have it. And at the time, I thought it was enough, I guess, coming up through high school. And it wasn't really till about, I guess, my sophomore year of high school where I realized that I was going to have to put in a little bit more work if I wanted to get to the next level. And that was also the time of getting a driver's license. Everybody's doing stuff, your friends, everybody's going to party and do things. And when it's time to put in that extra work is 9 times out of 10 when they're going to be doing something, and you have to make a decision to go hang out and miss out, or go put in some work and better yourself. And it was always a struggle for me. I
I love sports and I love playing it. And I put in, I guess I'd say I'd put in, the best way to put it would be I'd put in the bare minimum of extra effort that you could put in, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And, you know, fortunately it was enough to get me somewhere and get me to go play at Catawba, and get on the team. And sports too, you know, or I'm sorry, football. I was a punter, wide receiver and stuff. And like I said, I worked hard at that, but for some reason I thought if I'm going to make anything of myself, being a lefty pitcher and being as tall and athletic as I am, that's going to be the sport I make it in. Mm-hmm. And so I decided to choose that route. But it was more or less like I knew what I was doing, and I knew that I needed to go work harder, and I would, and I put in enough just to make myself feel better about it. And then, you know, just being like 100% honest. And like, I got to college and then realized, okay, I'm here, I'm doing this now, I have to actually work. And so it was a lot easier too, because there's not a lot of distractions, and a lot of your friends that you make on the team, obviously everybody's on the same schedule. So you do all that, and you really learn what a committed schedule and hard work is at that point. And that's exactly what I needed, that routine to kind of get myself like in check and oh wow, this is what hard work is. And I felt good and I felt great about it. And then in doing that made me realize how much work I was not putting in coming up through high school or middle school, high school, and I'm talking to some of these other kids that are on the team, and they've been playing travel ball forever, doing all these other things, and they were only like one sport athletes coming up through high school.
Damn.
And it's like, wow, it's like, and you know, growing up in a small town, you don't really think about that stuff. Everybody's a multi-sport athlete, and it's just kind of, it's the way you're kind of brought up and conditioned to think. It's just like, oh, it's just what it is. And so bouncing off of that, it really hit home, and I was like, wow, this definitely is a eye opener to how much work I was not putting into sports. And so I really held on to that, and that really hit me hard. And so I started busting my tail like tenfold to really try to do something. And I think in that, my body was kind of like, and I'd had shoulder problems through high school. Like I said, I actually blew my elbow out in a inter squad practice, which of all things, it just is a horrible way to do it. It was a partial tear to the Tommy John deal, and it was the situation of, okay, like I said, do you rehab, get the surgery? And I chose to rehab, came back, and it didn't heal all the way. And so then it was going to set me back another year, and I was just like, so like I said, with that, it was bittersweet. And at that point too, it was because of the work I was putting in. And I was often telling people, I was like, hey, it's a full-time job with overtime and no pay. Think of it that way. But you got to love it. And that's why it's like, you either love it or that's what it is. If you, you know, and it was starting to lean towards the full-time job situation. It was like, man, like I'm not going to be able to play. I'm going to have to do twice as much work and rehab to even get to the point where I can play, because I just physically can't right now, being injured. So I was like, it's very taxing, and it's like I see the writing on the wall. Like there's so many guys that are better than me, you know, and again, just kind of taking into account what the situation was. And I just realized I started losing the love for it, like the fire I had for it before. So it was bittersweet. And then I was just like, well, you know. And at this point, you know, music was I was like, man, you know, I could do music. Or at that point, I could do cars. And like I was just, again, finding love in everything else that I do or think I might want to do. And so kind of took a leap of faith. And I was like, you know, I feel like I'm done with sports. Truthfully, I was done with baseball. I walked on the football team after that. And then I blew out my shoulder, and then I messed up my finger. And I was like, all right, that's God's way of saying like, hey man, you need to give it up, hang up the cleats. So I took that as a sign, kind of took a step back, and then started doing music. Really leaned into it heavy. Moved into a house with all my buds. Some were lacrosse players, and the other one was a pitcher friend of mine who stopped to pursue physical therapy. And they started seeing me playing. I mean, I'd play the guitar. I'd literally play for hours and hours on end in between classes. And they were the ones who talked me into, hey, I think you could do this, like, you're good. And then it started slowly, picking up. But then as I guess kind of a promise to myself, I was like, okay, like, if I'm really going to do this, I'm going to do it. And now I see what it's going to take. I can get by on natural ability, but to really make something happen, I need to be putting in the effort in the hours where no one else is putting in the effort to really make a difference and stand out and do myself justice and really try to make a good stab at it. So that's where it carries over from sports. And my realization of, people don't just say you need to work hard and put in the extra effort just to say it, just to pass time. They truly mean it. And, there's so many examples of it. And there's the saying of, the harder you work, the luckier you get. So I always take that into consideration as well. And it's, so far it's proven true. I mean, I've been very blessed with opportunities and being able to do things, but I'd be lying to you if I said I didn't stress myself out with the work I got to put in, and it's a constant grind and chipping away at it every day in some way, shape, or form, chipping away at it.
Yeah. So. Well, I like that story a lot. I mean, not only can I kind of understand the feeling of some of that, of course, but at a different scale, man. I mean, I don't know what it feels like to be a college athlete and to feel like you're actually maybe on the road toward maybe breaking through in some department, and then that going away with an injury like that it's probably just a specific devastation, I would imagine. I don't know if that was a huge burden on you or not, but that transition to be able to apply, I guess, that mentality of hard work and work ethic into this other place, super valuable to hear about. And as you were introducing that idea, one thing that crossed my mind was like music too, and songwriting, where you found yourself landing, is kind of a realm that is less specific than the others. Like, for example, there are songs about baseball. There are songs about cars. Like songwriting is this interesting craft that you can use to actually still live in those worlds. For sure. It doesn't disqualify you from other shit in the same way.
It's not limited, man. It's never ending and anything you want it to be. And it's really like there's no right or wrong answer in songwriting. And that's what I love about it. It's one man's take on something that could be applicable to so many people or just a handful of people. And again, it's not wrong. It's not right. It just is.
It just is.
It just is. And that's the cool thing about it to me. And that's, it's cool that you said that, because it's like, I always think about it that way. And then I hear someone say, oh man, that's a bad song. And I used to be like that too. I used to be like, I just don't like that song. And then I'm just like, okay, like, that's just not what I like. That doesn't mean it's wrong. Doesn't mean it's bad. It's just not what I like. There's someone out there that song might be religion for them, It's just, I feel like it's a way a lot of people think nowadays, and they put you in boxes. And that was one thing when I started off. I was like, I don't want to be put in a box and labeled as something. I want to just be me, and that'd be cool. So
that was another thing I picked up on as you were talking about sort of, I don't know if you shifted or what it was, but, and I think about somebody like Morgan too, or other artists that I think of that are just like, the more they're dedicated to their sense of actually their identity, their self, it seems like it serves the spirit of art or something like that.
Yeah.
I feel like you can, it's like this intuitive thing where you can notice when people are like, playing the game and sort of like they're appealing to the masses while they have to, And then when they switch to that other thing where they're like, I'm not appealing to the masses anymore. I'm like being legitimately myself.
Yeah. It's kind of the paying your dues situation, or again, like you're saying, just kind of playing the game.
Yeah.
I think that there's a lot of folks that are fortunate, artists that are very fortunate, and I guess, I don't know, and I'm not going to speak like I know everything because I absolutely do not, but I've seen, I guess, artists that are playing the game and they're doing, I guess, what's asked of them, and then they get that some sort of success, and then they're able to do what you start to see their true colors, what they really like and what they want to do.
Yeah.
And then people love them even more for that. And of course, I guess it's, that you've earned a fan base at that point of gaining people's trust with what they're familiar with or what they think should be, and then they feed off of that, and then that's great. And then there's some artists who are like from the day one are not conforming, and they are them. But I'd hope that an artist would be able to put out something that is some way, shape, or form them, and they like it to some extent, and not just release it just because someone tells you to.
Yeah.
But I think that it's cool that some artists that you look at and it's like from day one to day whatever, it's them, and it's them, and you don't feel like there was some song or something put in there to where it was like they're not on the same wavelength,
Yeah. I think of it as, I don't know, it's being oneself, like, and this is interesting, and I'll say this. I post these things on the Instagram for the podcast.
Yeah.
I'll post these questions that engage with people, and I think like 2 different times now I've posted something that's sort of about like do you ever feel uncomfortable trying to be yourself, or do you ever feel like you can't be yourself, or different things like that. And I'm surprised at the vast majority of people who don't feel like that's accessible. Apparently, it feels like they can't, or they are uncomfortable with it. And I don't know. I spurred some conversation about that, but yeah, I think almost that's like what the artists in society at large or whatever they kind of do. They like model individuality for the rest of the world.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? They like show people how to do it, or something.
Yeah, for sure.
But it takes a while, I think.
It does. I think it's like with anything else. There's a learning curve, and there's also like a self-realization of it, to where some people get it quicker.
Yeah.
And some people are born with it. Some people it takes time to adapt to it, and everyone's different, man. That's one thing with anything and everything. Everybody wants to cookie cutter stuff, and it's not the case. And with anything, anything at all in the world, it's just everyone's different, and you have to take that into account. And there's so much randomness and differences between taste and everything, and upbringing, to where it influences everything. And so like there's a handful of people that get it quick enough and are in the right place, right time situation, to where is what it is. So but yeah, I definitely think we're on the same page with that.
Yeah. Well, you said a phrase too in regard to all that I was interested in, because you were talking about kind of seeing beauty in lots of places.
Yeah.
And I don't know, man. I feel like I relate to you on this thing. Like, so a while back, I remember the day. I think I talked to some guest about this. I remember I was receiving a grant that I had applied for like a state, like a thing, like, I'm an artist, I could use $2,000, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And the day that I received it, I remember thinking, like, I think I could be more than a musician. And I think the thought I had prior to that was like, no, like, summarize your whole identity as musician.
Yeah.
And like sacrifice everything else.
Right.
And I see that model work for a lot of people, but I remember kind of switching to where I was like, I want to always have that part, but I want to have more shit to it. For example, you've mentioned cars a few times. Like, for me, it was almost like I could sacrifice an interest like cars in the name of trying to be a musician for a while. And I started to wonder if that was necessary. And I finally concluded I didn't think it was. And it sounds like you're kind of saying the same thing.
Yeah. Man, it's just like, I think I think for me, the big thing is talking, and I'm just going to kind of digress, I guess, for a second, but like talking about success, and this relates to what the car situation, and I think for me, everyone automatically assumes when you set out to play music and you say you're going to do music and you're going to be an artist, well, they automatically assume the end game is signing a record, some big record deal, and being the next whoever. Mm-hmm. And that is what you're going to strive for. And there's so many, which, I mean, to the untrained person and everybody, they assume, or they that's all they know.
Yeah.
Because they know.
They compare you to whatever,
whoever's hot in the market right now.
Yeah, exactly.
And a lot of artists do that, and they strive to do it. But there's well, what you don't see is there's 10 years or 15 years before that where that person was in a back of a van driving 6 hours to do a show in the middle of nowhere for scraps and a beer tab. Mm-hmm. And in that, like, you know, as far as, and I'm trying to wrap it back to the car thing, but you know, when I set out to do music, it was for the fact of I enjoy it, and taking a stab at it just meant I'm going to give it 110% of what I know I can do, and not with the thought of I want to be famous. I want to be huge. Like, I just want to have fun, and I want to have a band, and I want to write songs that mean something to me, and I just want to have this experience and be successful in this experience, and like truly appreciate appreciate the times where we go play for nothing and I go in the hole, and you know, just enjoying the crowd. Like, that to me, that's the gratification, is just like seeing, like, playing, getting to play. Like, you work hard on your craft, and you get to get up on stage and play for people, and then people enjoy it, no matter how big or small the crowd is. And really, you see them, and you get the gratification from them, but more or less, like, I'll get the gratification from myself, because it's like I'll be playing licks and doing stuff and having fun. It's just like I practice and I can do this now. Mm-hmm. And that's so cool, because it's like that's where the hard work is. It's like, you know, from where I first started off, like, and I would play acoustic shows, like I'd be so afraid to like play a song without the lyrics right in front of me, because it'd be like, I'm gonna forget them, I'm so nervous, blah blah blah. But then then I look back from playing guitar on stage and not even thinking about it and just being so comfortable with it to that point, and it's like, wow, I've come so far, and that's gratification. Yeah. And you know, talking about the car situation to trying to find your identity, and what I was gonna say is that, like, it's the way of measuring success, and what do you measure it by, and what is your identity? Well, like, your identity is individualistic, and like what people, obviously, like, everyone's got things they like and everything, and what they like to do, and like for me, it's just I find the happiness and the beauty in specific things, or really everything, but like I cling to a few, if that makes sense. And
I hear you.
I don't know if that's really answering the question.
No,
I kind of like ramble, but
this is my favorite shit, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm very much
get way out there, and then I try to reel it back in.
I'm very much appreciating just hearing, like, kind of, hearing
it's
you
crazy.
think through these things.
Dude, I'm half crazy. I'm not gonna lie to you. I just like I think totally different sometimes, and like everything's relevant, like in some way, shape, or form. Everything's relevant, and like, again, you know, just the gratification and success is like, people want physical and visual success in everything and it's like, you set out to do a goal, you want the visual success, and then it's like, again, like comparing. That's the big problem, is comparing when you're successful. Yeah, you're successful, okay, but only as successful as this person. It's like, well, what measure? Because like, I'm totally happy with what I'm doing, and I'm content, and I'm having the time of my life, and I'm finding enjoyment in this right now. And it's like, I've tell my wife this all the time. It's like, if someone were to say, Kyle, you cannot play music anymore, you can't do that, Okay. And they told me that tomorrow's the last day I can play music. And it was, or you're going to die or whatever, something crazy. And it's like, okay, then that's fine. It's like, I don't find if that's the case, it's a shame, but life goes on. I'm going to go over here and try this, because I might be 10 times better at this, and I might love this, and this might be like where I find my peace, and I might enjoy it. Like with cars. I'm getting to the car thing now. It's just, it's a release, and it's fun. And I'll work on a car, and I'll challenge myself to do something. Cause like, I don't know, my dad wasn't a mechanic. Nobody in my family is a mechanic. It's a challenge, and I like being challenged, and I like trying to do something I've never done before. And it's a big thing of the stereotype is like, well, tell me I can't do it, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to, and I'm going to find a way. If I don't know, I'm going to call 15 people to ask them, how would you do this, and learn and just try to educate myself on how to do this stuff, because it's just, and I guess it's the kind of the do it mentality and being motivated. But, yeah, I mean, it's just kind of, I don't know if like I'm trying to find my identity in cars or music. It's just who I am. It's there, and it's it could be something totally different as well. But it's just, for me, that's what it is. It's like I fell into that. I really enjoy that. And if someone were to say, hey, you should try doing this, well, I'm at least going to give it a fair chance and try to do it. I might hate it. I might not be good at it, and I might not like it, or I might. But it's different for everyone. For me specifically, cars and guitars and everything else. It's like I focus towards that, and I just try to. I don't know. I enjoy it, and it gives me the release, and I don't try to. It's a big part of my identity. I'm kind of just rambling here. But I'm trying to make sense, because it makes sense in my head, but then sometimes I'll just try to go say stuff, man. It's just like, dude, he just spoke for 20 minutes, and he just made absolutely no sense at all.
I mean, I feel like that's the reality of humans, is we're trying our best to articulate a mess.
Yeah, I mean, really. But I think that it's I don't know. It's just the enjoyment, and I find success for me not based off what other people think.
Mm-hmm.
And with music, I guess, again, people judging on how you measure success, you look for people's approval. But I feel like you really start to see success is when you stop looking for that. And you're happy with yourself and content with what you're doing, I guess, to sum it up. And then, you do the things that you like, and people are going to like you for what you're doing. You're not caring what other people are thinking of you. And that's what people truly appreciate, is the authenticity of being you.
Well, first of all, I'll just say, seriously, truly, I don't know if it's maybe I'm following you, I feel like, pretty well. And the way that you're laying these ideas out is like there's gems everywhere. I'm just seeing things that we could talk about all throughout, and I'm enjoying it quite a lot. And what I'm hearing a lot of interesting shit in the things that you're saying. One, your attention to identity is something that I've been trying to pay attention to for a long time, and sort of almost sometimes ringing alarm bells, sometimes just being curious and kind of being like, what are we doing with identity? Because in some cases, people are, in some cases we're running wild with identity and trying to figure out what its limits are or something.
Yeah.
But in the same way as you, like as an artist and as a creator, I love how you said, I'm trying to find my identity, or maybe I just like these things.
Yeah.
Because that's how I think I feel in this detached way when it comes to interests. It's not like I don't know. It's like they speak to you for some reason. Things tickle your fancy for some reason, and you respond to them. Additionally, another thing you were kind of talking about is just not being guided by. It sounds, what I'm hearing you say is something like, there's a truth, there's an authenticity in being guided by something that really speaks to your interest rather than the assumption or the belief or the desire that it will produce fame as a byproduct or something.
Yeah.
It sounds like you're saying, I think the world likes it better, and I think I like it better. I think it works out better
Yeah.
if people are true to their interests rather than trying to pursue them for some like alternative motive.
Yeah, I think people get into the idea of music with the wrong intentions, or anything. Some, just like with anything, any decision you make, you can do it with the wrong, motives to get into something.
Yeah.
But, I think that if you, just from what I've seen and what I've kind of noticed, is like if you get into something for the right reasons and you're doing it because you truly love it and you're truly crazy about it or obsessed with it and you truly like it, again, people are going to like you for that specific reason. But you also have to be content with people not liking you for it.
Yep.
And with the understanding that people might not notice you. And that's going back to music. It's like, for me, it's like, I'm going to sing what I want to sing about, play how I want to play, do things how I want to do. And if I don't get a record deal or I'm not even looking, I'm not looking for handouts or a record deal or things like that. I have to do things in order to get to certain positions of playing and places I want to play and goals that I set for myself. But it's like, you have to put in the work and basically realize that, like, okay, I could be doing this for the next 10 years. And if I'm concerned with what people, like if I'm concerned with being the next Morgan Wallen or whoever, just throwing out names, like if I'm concerned with being the next person, and I have to realize in the next 10 years, that is probably not going to happen. And probability is it won't happen. And if I'm okay with that, then I truly love it and I'm cool with it. And at that point, I feel like I'm in it for the right reasons. And I'm truly going to enjoy the ride. It's wild. But that's kind of the...
No one says that.
Yeah, and I mean, but that's the conversation I feel like a lot of people have to have. Because I got friends, and I know people that are chasing music and doing things, and they get so bent out of shape when someone else, they're looking at other people, and they're looking at what they're doing, and it's like, man, you don't know everyone's backstory. You don't know what they have. You don't know what's been handed to them, how hard they've worked, or what they did to get to the point they're at. You can't focus on that. You have to focus on what you're doing, and you have to focus on what you love. And again, it's like, at that point, I feel like when people focus on other people, it's like you're focusing on their status and their gains and what they're making. And it's like, dude, it's like, if you love making music, make music, have fun, enjoy it, and don't make it, it's business and music, they go hand in. There's business in every single side of anything that you do in life. If you're making money on it.
Yeah.
And unfortunately it's a part of it, and you have to know the music business. But it's like, again, man, it's you can understand business of that, but love the music, focus on yourself, and if you do that, I feel like everything else will take care of itself. And don't really try to focus on what everyone else is doing. How am I going to be the next big thing? It's like, focus on here, the now, writing, telling stories, having a good time, and appreciating the moment. And I feel like everything else will take care of itself. That's truly how I look at it.
I mean, man, I love hearing that. And it's like I say, I mean, just so few people talk about that, especially in this time in the world where it feels like projecting an image of success is like a really big thing. And so you base your success off of like Instagram and other social media platforms, and I get the sense in many ways that you just kind of presume on the audience's behalf, like I'm a big deal, and you try to make them feel like you are. Yeah. And what you're saying sounds so zen and peaceful and kind of Taoist or something. When did you start practicing this mentality?
I think it was definitely like right after I I had started playing out live. And I don't know, I think, well, I want to say like I played with some buddies, and I'd been around some guys that had been doing it for a long time. But then even more so, like, I started looking at some of the people who have made it, quote unquote, and are doing it very successfully in, like, I guess the bigger stage.
Mm-hmm.
And I started looking at people who, just watching interviews with them and just seeing how like they approached it. And I guess that's kind of a thing, you know, it's like if find where you want to be, and then find the people that are where you want to be, and then see how they did it.
Mm-hmm.
To either learn how they did do it or what they regret doing, and learn from their mistakes. So the path might be easier for you. And I just I looked at them, then I looked at people around town and people that I know that have had some relative success with that. And I just really there's so much chance. I just started realizing there's so much chance that goes into all this, and so much just like right place, right time situation stuff. And at the end of the day, it's like, if you cannot control if somebody sees one of your videos online and they're like, he's the next big thing. And I don't know, I don't remember like the exact moment, but I remember just having the thought of like, okay, I really cannot control the 7 billion or 8 billion people in the world and what they look and check out. Mm-hmm. And this whole thing is like way bigger than me and anything like, I don't know, it's just like the whole, like, there's so many people that have tried to do music, and there's so many artists, there's so many songs, and it's like, there's so many songs that are just so many, just like, how do you cut through, I guess? It's like, how do you cut through? And it's like, well, you have to be, and again, it goes back to, you have to be okay that you might not cut through, and you don't do it with the intentions of cutting through to like get everyone to like you. You just, I'm going to be me. And if it happens, if you people discover you and you get noticed like that, then it's meant to be, and you've done what you're supposed to do. But I think, you know, I remember having the thought of just like, wow, like, there's so many people, I cannot control what they do. I can't control the success that so-and-so has by just scrolling on Instagram. Like, wow, like, look at, he's got 15,000 likes. He's successful. And it's like, I can't control that, mm-hmm. but I can control how much I practice, how much I play, how much I write, how much I develop my craft to where I'm a force to be reckoned with. And, you know, and am I perfect? No, you know, and there's times where I overload myself, and I'm just like, you know, I just get fed up with it, and I'm just like, all right, I'm not loving it right this second, so I'm gonna take a step back. And, you know, and then that's when some people, again, it's all about what your goals are and what you're wanting to do, and measure how you're measuring success. And it's like, if you're, you know, I don't want to get into that again, but just basically, like, that's kind of where I realized it was just like, if I'm just focusing on me and I'm being the best possible me that I can be, and not trying to be someone else, and not trying to copy exactly what someone else is doing and their method, and I'm being me, that's going to stick out. Mm-hmm. And maybe that'll get my hand a little bit higher than other people's to where I'm noticed. Yeah. And, you know, and if that's the goal and everything, then that's my way of kind of looking at it. So I just kind of, again, stick to being me and doing what I like, and maybe it's such a different perspective to where it catches on and that gets people's attention. And if not, that's cool. Like, again, I'm kind of just, I'm hanging out and I'm having a good time with life. So,
well, so again, just a lot of the things you say things that are so people don't say, like people don't ever admit that it's okay occasionally to not love the music business or music itself, or to love how you feel about it in a certain moment. You know, people don't say that shit, and I like that you say that. I really do. As you talked, you've made me think of two more questions. One of them, and you can just decide which one you might want to follow, which thread you might want to follow. I'm curious to hear more about how you do define success, or I'm also curious to hear more about how you understand maybe your identity as an artist or as a person, and just like the things that obviously we all fit into just an endless number of categories.
Yeah.
You know, we're both males, and we're both North Carolinians, and we're both musicians,
Right.
and all these generic terms.
Natural,
but,
natural. Just I guess things we have in common, and people are automatically going to put you in a box. One of my favorite artists, just for example, is Sturgill Simpson.
Yeah.
And I just love the fact of how he started off doing what he was doing. And if you look at from his first album and the fan base that he incurred from that, and then to doing everything that he's done to this point, it's like I love it because I know it's him, and like that's what he loves, and I'm like, dude, you got to love him for it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and there's so many purists out there, and with every sect of genre of songs and everything, you're gonna like when he did that the cartoon thing, the album, The Sound and Fury, and it's like totally, it's not country, but he don't care. He's an artist, man. It's like he's doing what he wants to do, and you have to love him for that. That's what he's trying to and I think that's a big part of what helped me, is because like seeing him, it's like, dude, he was like, or he is, and he's Sturgill Simpson. To me, that's true talent, is when you can step away from your bread and butter, fall into this, and then go into that, and then do this, and then like you're still like, it's still good, and it's still cool, and it's like, wow, like that's being an artist. And like I think it takes other artists to appreciate other artists and appreciate the art, and really have an acquired taste to like not being judgmental off of, well, that's not anything like his last album, that's not what he was doing before. It's like, man, he's breaking up the monotony of it, and he's just doing whatever he wants to do. And like he just did a song with Diplo on his stab at a country album, or whatever I don't know the name of it, but yeah, I mean, like it's just like, dude, it's cool. It's art. Art is art. It's whatever someone interprets it as.
Yeah.
And it's like beauty in the eyes of the beholder and all that.
Something
stuff.
interesting about him and Billy Strings and a bunch of these artists is like they are able to keep like a foot anchored in the real world of maybe something that sounds like country or sounds like pioneer music or who fucking knows what, but
man,
they deal with subject matter that's like truly philosophical or psychedelic or who knows what with Sturgill. Like who knows what it'll be about, but that's the trueness, it seems like, of them. They're willing to like integrate their real interests into this long-standing tradition.
It's to me, and it's the blending. It's and again, it's like what we like, and someone else might think it's garbage, and that's cool. That's just whatever you think, man. And it's like, I think that there's definitely a wave of artists who are coming at the front now, to where it's you're liking the artist for the artist again, and it's not just having one artist. Or just someone just sing someone else's songs, and it just, I don't know, it's just kind of, it's the authenticity of it again. You can truly see, it's like, when you see Billy Strings, it's like, Billy Strings is doing what Billy Strings wants to do. When you see Sturgill, Sturgill's doing what Sturgill's supposed to do. And like artists like that, and it's like, again, it's a breath of fresh air to me, and seeing that authenticity come through. And again, like I know there's other artists doing it, and like those are just two that I'm sure we're very familiar with. And just obviously being in the area that we're in, and in the genre or the style of people we play around and live, and play music with. But I mean, again, it just boils down to authenticity and what you dig. And people like Billy Strings for being Billy Strings, people like Sturgill for being Sturgill, people like you for being you, and me for being me. And I hope that's just what everyone looks at. And there's, again, there's no cookie cutter in any situation, so you just have to be aware of that. But what was
that part of that curiosity was, well, there's also how you define success, which you touched on a little bit previously, but also the identity aspect. I think another way to ask the question might be something like, when you're writing and you come up with like you find some songs that really you think represent who you are as an artist.
Yeah.
I don't know, like what do those consist of? Like, what do you love in writing? What do you enjoy to mess with, or what do you enjoy to write about? You know, what do you enjoy to put into songs? Anything like that you've identified as part of your identity, as far as you can see yourself.
Yeah. I mean, I'm really big on. So me and my buddy Justin Clyde Williams, we actually got together and wrote last night, and I think a big part of what I look for is in my writing. I like to tell a story. I like to tell some sort of story, whether it's happy, whether it's sad or lighthearted or whatever. I just like telling a story and seeing the progression of something, and then also. Some songs I like painting myself in someone else's mind. And it's like, how can I, like, what are they going through? What are all the emotions that a human can go through in this particular situation? And it's like sometimes, and I don't make it known, but like sometimes, like, I'll be playing at a bar, and I've done it several times and several songs have come out of it, but I'll be playing at a bar and I'll look at some dude. There might be 40, 50 people in front of me hanging out, having a good time, drinking beer. I might pay attention to them one night, but then the next night I might look at someone who's at the bar by themselves and they're just looking kind of lonesome, and they're by themselves. And it's like, well, what scenario did this guy just go through to come in here, sit down at the bar, and not pay attention to anything else that's going on here? Because the whole bar's in here having a good time except for this one guy. So that must be some serious shit that he's going through. Wonder what it is. So I kind of like, and my mind's like 100 miles an hour all the time. So it's like I can't just sit still and just ignore it. Like I'm always like, what's his deal? What's his story? What's he going through? And I've done that. Like I wrote a song with Justin called Lion, and I was running an errand one day out in Troutman, and all it was, I drove through the stoplight, saw this guy driving an old Dodge Dually, and I just looked through the window at him as I was pulling through this light, and this guy just looked like he had been run down, been through so much shit. Like, he just looked rough, tired, and he had a big pull-behind trailer with just equipment on it, but everything just looked so rough. And like I just took that, like, and it was funny because like in front of it was like a super nice car, and like I was kind of in a nicer area, I guess, and I just like nice cars, and then there's him, and it's like stuck out like a sore thumb. So I just like looked at him for a second, and then like I really just kind of was like, dang, like that guy, like he looked down enough to where I noticed him. And just passing by. And it was weird how that just stuck with me. So I just started humming a melody line literally right after that, and had the first couple lines, and he looked like he was hauling farm equipment, and he just looked like everything in his life at that point was going wrong. So I just started feeding off of that, and like just came up with it. I had like a first verse and a chorus, and then I went to Justin, and me and Justin have a really good telepathy on just like we know, like we like a lot of the same music and a lot of the same, I guess, like there are a lot of the sad shit, sad stuff, to where it's just like, man, this is like good tyranny beer country or whatever. And he's a big Haggard guy, and I like, we like it all. But anyways, we ride on the same wavelength a lot, and so we were just kind of talking about it, and we were trying to paint this character of like, man, what's this guy going through? And then you just paint a scenario. You just put it into a scenario, except that, you're not painting it, you're singing it, and you're writing it. So it's just, if I'm singing about something and I'm trying to portray sad, and I'm trying to portray like what this guy's going through, I'm not going to kind of like flirt the line. I'm going to like, I want to like tell you like this guy's going through some shit. He's going, like, I want you to be sad listening to the song. And like, that's my goal. It might not be how you take it, but like, that's like, I'm like, dang, I want the true emotion to come out. Like, I want you to really feel the character in this song if it's made up. And, like I said, there's just a lot of it's truth, but a lot of it's fiction. So it's just with anything, it's art, and it's up to interpretation. But that's kind of how, whenever I write something, I want you to I want you to feel the emotion and understand the story, and there might be a moral to the story, or it might just be, again, a glimpse into the eyes of this one guy that I saw for 5 seconds at a stoplight, and it's something more. I don't know. It depends. Again, it depends on the mood I'm in and what I feel like needs to be said at the moment. And then, excuse me. I think, like, you know, for example, another song, it's a song that I put on my first EP is called Travelers Get Down. Me and my buddy Daniel Jeffers wrote it. And it was just, again, a lot of truth. We were on the way down to Panama City Beach to play a show. And we drove down. We're both kind of run down, tired. He was driving, and I busted out the guitar, and it was like, let's write a song real quick. So the last hour we wrote a song, and just talk about paying dues, being out on the road. Everybody's going through that, you know, and we're just kind of telling it from our point of view at that point. But then we also kind of like, well, hey, we can't just make it about us. Like, there's so many other people that have gone through so much worse than us being out on the road in a pickup truck driving to play a show for a couple $100 or whatever it was, you know, and like, or just truckers or, you know, just long haul drivers and everybody. So it's like, well, let's kind of dip into that a little bit, and like that, it helps you kind of dive into another part of the world and something else you're not thinking about, but it makes it more applicable for other people.
Yeah.
So, but it's like, you know, here's our truth, here's what we know, and then it just kind of the other stuff comes with it.
You do a lot of co-writing, it sounds like?
Yeah. When I first started off, I didn't though. And it's funny how, you know, and I'll say this, like, a lot of my co-writes are sad. And I don't know why, and I don't know if it's a way of therapy to talk with like your buddy.
I bet it might be.
You know, I don't know, but it's like, and I feel, you know, they feel the same way, but like, I got some happy stuff, but you know, it's a lot more serious stuff. It's a lot more raw emotional stuff that I think that we all kind of go through the same thing as songwriters together. And it's a way of dealing with it and putting it in a song. Yeah, when I first started off, man, it was like my first song I ever put out was Lake Weekend. And if you look at it compared to what I got out now, totally different, totally not on the same spectrum. Might even argue it's two different artists. And like that's cool with me. Like, I don't, you know, like Lake Weekend, when I put out that song, it was like, it's about my best friends. And like, we go to the lake and like we get on a boat and we just have a roaring time, and that's what we do. And so I wrote the song. It's a true story. It's about us and having fun and hanging out, and it's lighthearted, whatever, you know, but like it's truth. It's me. It's not something that I'm portraying like it happened.
Yeah.
Really, like, it's us and hanging out. So, and like I said, some of this other stuff, it's like I relate to it, and the other stuff I put out, more serious, more emotional, more like heartfelt, and I've seen it. Like I've seen it, or firsthand experienced it, or whatever, or, you know, a little bit of fiction in there, just because I like thinking of stuff or telling a story from not what you think should be told. Like, I want to tell a story that you hadn't heard 1,000 times. I want to tell it from my point of view and what I think it should say. And I want to, instead of the character taking a right, maybe he takes a left or something like that, you know? So that's kind of how I look at things. I guess I'm really bad about it too, because, you know, you'll hear a song and you can definitely hear where it's going just naturally after what you've been conditioned to listening to. You think that it should go to this part. That's what your heart feels like. You're like, oh, it's going to go to this part, and this is where the story's leading to. And I'm always the one who's like, we don't want him to go there because everybody's expecting him to go there. We want him to go that way, and we're going to do this, and it's going to be crazy, and then everyone's going to love it because it's totally different. And I'm bad about it, because then I'll get hung up. I'm like, okay, instead of him coming back to say I'm sorry, what if he leaves and goes to Vegas and blows all his money or something? You know, like, and I'm just like, that's how I think. I'm just like, I want to do what everyone else is not doing, because that's, I think, what needs to be said or happened or done. And
balance out.
Yeah. So I don't know, but that's kind of, again, it puts me in a corner sometimes, because then I'll sit there and I'm like, all right, I got to think of this. I got to think of why he did this. And now it's not the norm. You know, the norm is he comes back, he says, I'm sorry, but, you know, I don't want him to. I want him to go do something totally different. So
there's two contrasting ideas in there that are kind of interesting, and I've talked about them ad nauseum in different ways. Like one of them was the sad song idea, and what that is. Like I've had that conversation over the course of the last 15 years, like with in so many different ways, like trying to understand what this is.
Yeah.
Because people will hear songs that I don't even think of as sad. Like you use a word like emotional or something like that, and I feel that. I feel reflective and heartfelt and these terms. But sometimes, challenging or conflicted or something like these difficult songs that deal with pretty raw emotions, and that often is what I'm told at my shows. It's like your songs they're relevant to the soul, like they strike you somewhere deep, kind of stuff. And I'm like, that's what I mean to do. But some people will hear them and be like, Jesus Christ, like why is it all so depressing and sad and all this stuff? And I'm like, I just don't think of it that way. And I think the art serves a different kind of purpose that I don't think of as counter to happiness. I think it's still in service of happiness or of peace or something. It's just a different way of addressing it. It's not being like we're happy in this moment. It's kind of like, I think of it almost as alleviating the stuff that's keeping you from being happy or something like that.
I think that's a good point, because I feel like, it's a lot of people, I don't know, it's being able to appreciate it for what it is. And I think a lot of people, for whatever reasons, might hear something. It's too sad. I don't want to hear that, because they're running from something.
Yeah.
It might be. I don't know. But just that's kind of always how I've looked at it. It's like I should be able to listen to a song and appreciate it for what it is. And if it's going to affect you some way, shape, or form. Some people it hurts them harder, and some people hide from it. But I mean, a good song is a good song. And
the other piece of that, the true versus not or whatever kind of idea. And like more, I'd say about 80% of the time I'm doing more like what you're describing, like kind of I'm informed by reality, but I'm twisting it and I'm allowing myself to have that space to be artistic with it. And I feel like I'm often looking at songwriting and trying to figure out like why is it treated so different, and why is music treated so different than other art forms? Like when people see Jason, like when they watch The Bourne Identity, they're not like, did the screenwriter really experience this? They don't.
It's a good story, man. It's part of it, man. It's like, but also the way, just to bounce off that, like it's probably happened at some point.
Yeah,
maybe we don't know everything that's ever happened. Like
true.
It probably could have happened.
In some way it's happened.
Some way it's happened, yeah. And then, I mean, but that's, to be able to have the mind, to me, what's cool is like to being able to have the mind of thinking outside of the box and thinking of an ending that might not have happened, not the stereotypical way of something should happen. To me, that's what's even cooler. And like so a lot of people appreciate it for that. Mm-hmm. And not saying that I write like these elaborate, like, Shakespearean things that are just like, oh, he did this and then everybody dies or something, like that's not right. I don't write stuff like that, but I'm just saying like it's the thought process and how you approach it. It's cool to me. That's cool. And I think you'd agree is like it's alleviating for us, because it's like, and again, not conforming to what the physical and everything. It's like now you're kind of floating on the line of anything's possible.
Yep.
It doesn't always have to be so cut, dry, black and white. Like anything's possible, and I think having a creative mind, it's like we kind of accept that more as fact in a lot of things than everyone else is just cut and dry, black and white on things. So
and you're right, and it's not, and I don't mean for anything I say it's not that I'm trying to compare maybe songwriters who do feel confined by any of that stuff. I mean, but
dude, again, it's everyone.
To
each his own, man.
Exactly.
Be happy with it.
There are people who are gifted with that, but I personally find like if I was confined to only whatever I experienced that was like that I could retell perfectly, I would feel like I would just feel like that didn't tap out the possibilities within songwriting,
Yeah.
because songwriting it can consist of all sorts of shit, and like truly it does. Like when it starts to feel like it's just purely a journal entry or just and I have songs like that
Yeah.
that are just they're like almost semi-factual accounts of something that happened. But
Yeah.
I just, as a practice, I try not to practice limiting what's possible with songwriting.
And you hit that on the head. It's like, dude, go where the song takes you.
Yeah.
For me, it might take me this place. For you, it might take you that place. And that's, again, it's the whole beauty of it, man.
That's the fun of it.
It's the fun of it, because like there's no right or wrong. It's wherever you want to take it. That's your interpretation. Someone else might write it completely different, and that's the cool thing about it. And like I'm not, and again, just like you're saying, I applaud the people who can black and white sit down and just tell it, account from everything from start to finish, and it just be a masterpiece.
Yeah.
And it's like, I wish I could do that, because then I wouldn't have to try to come up with crap. Like, like it'd be so much easier. But it's everyone's got their own gig and everybody does their own thing. And that's what's so cool. It's like there's so many different influences from every person, and getting to co-write with a lot of people, you find out what makes them tick, and you find out how they look at it. And then you kind of gauge how you can gauge the person and what they're looking at, to try to feed off on, okay, like they're thinking this, so I've never had that kind of point of view, so I'm going to try, like, now let's get out of the box a little bit, let's try something different. We start talking, and then that's collaboration. That's the whole part of it. And it's like, that's when you get something special. It's like my point of view, your point of view, how we approach things come together, and now it's something even more different.
Yep.
And it's beautiful for what it is, and that's what's cool.
Do you like being a creative person?
I do. It gets stressful because
Yeah.
I get hard on myself. And I think that's where that discipline from sports comes back in, because sports is, you go do the work and you go put in the work. Like, hey, I need to get more fit. I go work out. And I find myself oftentimes just, hey, I know I need to write. I'm not really feeling creative right this second.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I'm looking for creativity, and I stress myself out, because being creative, it should just happen naturally. You feel like it should. And I try to, some people, people go have a beer with their bud, and or go smoke some weed or something, and then they get creative. That's their bag and what they do. And for me, it's like, it's so hard, because I revert back to like sports, and it's like, when it's cut and dry, it's like, you need to be better at hitting, so you go work on hitting drills.
Mm-hmm.
And pitching, you go pitch, and you go do a bullpen or something. And like, again, for this, that's, I think, and I'm still battling with it 100%, because there's so many days where I'll have hours on end to just be creative, but I am not in the creative mindset. And I get so mad at myself, because it's like, you're wasting this time. That's the way I look at it. And it's totally self-destructive, and it sucks. But I realize it. I'm working on it. But it's like, hey, man, you got a couple hours here where you don't have any responsibility. You can just chill out and write and just do whatever. And I've gotten to there was a point within the last year, man, where I would be so unhappy with myself, because I was not being creative, because I felt like I was wasting time. And I felt like I wasn't working. I wasn't busting my butt to really achieve what I wanted to do. And I wasn't taking advantage of the time that I had. Because trying to have free time when you're working on cars, I'm married, we have a house, and side hustles, and friends and everything, it's like, you rarely have free time.
Yeah.
And to me, that's always, you can make an excuse all day long. I don't have time. But like, when you finally do have time, and you can't be creative, and you can't flip that switch on, and I feel like a lot of people deal with it, it's discouraging, and it just makes you very frustrated as an artist. And of course, sometimes the creativity happens when you least expect it, and you don't want it to, or you're not in a position where you want it to, and then that's what really sucks, because then you're in the middle of, I don't know, you're in the middle of hanging out with friends, and then you're just like, I just had a great idea, and I don't have a guitar near me, and I'm 2 hours away from the house, and we're out and about or doing, and it's just like, oh man. And so like I like it. I love being a creative person, and it's very fun when it can be. But just like anything else, it can definitely stress you out when it's not happening on your command.
Yep.
And I'm sure there's drills, and I'm sure there's methods that people have, because I know I'm not the first one to ever deal with it by far, and I just haven't figured out what works for me too good. Well, actually, that's a lie. Cars helps me out. So whenever I get frustrated with music and the hustle and bustle of it, and I'm like, okay, I'm not enjoying this like for the reasons that I was enjoying it before, I step away for a moment and I go mess with cars.
Yep.
And like I'm restoring a car right now, and if I have one that's pretty much done, but like I just the being able to put my mind on idle and not have to worry about trying to create, like, there's the part, I need to fix it, I need to put it back together.
Yep.
Black and white, there it is. It gives me a peace, puts me at idle, and it takes that stress away. And so like that's been helping. I found that to help, but I know it don't always work. And I think that's what, again, I know I'm not the first artist to go through something like that. And I'm just trying to find methods that help me get into the creative mindset. And when I don't get in the mindset, be at peace with it, be cool with it. Like there's another day, it's going to happen, and just be content with it. And it's, again, I'm becoming more self-aware of it, but before I was definitely getting down on myself because I'm just that hard-nosed motivation of like, I need to write every day. I need to write this. And it's like, and if I'm putting it off multiple days throughout the week, and then finally the day that I do have time to write, I can't write because I'm not in the mental headspace to. Yeah. I get very, very frustrated. Yeah. And then it discourages me, and it puts me out to where I don't want to. I just have to step away. Yeah. So, but that's it. Like it's a love-hate relationship for sure.
You kind of tapped into my follow-up, which was like about daily routines and stuff. Yeah. And I was thinking about that a week or two ago, I think, because I was like, I don't know, man, just, thinking about the identity stuff too, and thinking about possibilities. And I landed on this thought that was like, I think I'm realizing I like having a daily routine, and I like building into that routine times to be social and kind of like fuel my enthusiasm for life. And that, I feel like, is how I fill up the tank for writing, more so than trying to like build writing into my schedule. Right. Because when I get regimented like that, it's sort of like I can't, same as you, it's just hard to predict when creativity, I mean, you can create the scenario where stuff gets out of your way. Yeah. You can try to limit your distractions and open the door for yourself. But if you're not writing shit that you like, you're just not hitting. You're just not writing shit you like, And I find what makes me write shit I like is when I'm living my life in a way that is inspiring ideas about imagery and sentiment and emotions, like you were talking about, like being in a situation where, like the last time I was, one of the most recent times an idea really struck me was like I was at a work function, like running a camera, watching a bunch of like older drunk people dance, and then like I was like, oh, there's a vision for a song, And if I wasn't working my job, I wouldn't have had that moment, to like be kind of open to that visualization of the song.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, it's you're talking about the routine thing, man. It's like I get, sometimes it works, the routines work for me, and like I'll get into kind of a routine and like the weekly routine, and this is just personally for me, but like then I hate the routine because it's a symbol of the man and like doing everything that is counter creative. Yeah. And it's like, of course I'd want to just wake up at noon and then just like, where's the day going to take me, man? Let's see what happens. And it's impossible right now. And you got responsibilities. It's part of it. So it's a juggle, man. It's juggling all that and still trying. And that's what makes it a grind sometimes, to where obviously when I was still getting out of school and it was so much easier because I was I was working at a car lot. I worked for a family friend. I was selling old diesel trucks, like old Power Strokes and Cummins and Duramaxes, and like that was really when I wasn't even trying to do music. Wasn't trying to do my music. I was drumming as a hired hand, and it was like a weekend thing, and it was fun, and it was like, yeah, like I can write. I don't have any responsibility. Like I'll go hang out till 2 a.m, and then I'll go work and do that, and like there's no responsibility on me because like I don't have to come up with content. Now I don't have to post every day. I don't have to, like, there's, when you're independent, you do all these things. You don't have a team, you have you. Yeah. And like it all relies on you. And again, it's like it becomes, when you start off, it's like it's so important to you that, again, it's like, and to compete, you have to do these things. Like if you're trying to get your name out there and all these things, and it's like I enjoy posting. Like I definitely, like I used to do it so much more. And again, this is before I kind of understood kind of the mindset that I'm thinking of now. It's like everybody else is posting, I need to post. And like, but then again, like just coming through it and really diving into what other people have done. It's like, dude, you don't, like, if you're good enough and you're doing what you're good at and you're being you and you're good enough, like people are going to find you with anything, and ultimately you shouldn't sacrifice your happiness just to try to appease other people. And it's like, what does it matter if you get 300 likes on Instagram or whatever and all that stuff? It's like, at the end of the day, man, that's all bullshit. And
it is, but I was just fucking with my perspective, because it's all about perspective, and I find all that shit so draining. But I think it was last night I couldn't sleep. I played a show over the weekend, and my schedule got all mixed up. Another negative side effect, I guess, of having a really regimented schedule is it gets fucked up one time and then it's fucked for like 3 days,
dude.
And it's just like, man.
It sucks, yeah.
But I was like up till 2 a.m. last night just laying in bed thinking, and one of the ideas I was trying to use to get myself tired was like thinking about social media stuff. And I thought, if I could just, for me, it's easy to try to be as good as I can at music.
Yeah.
Why can't I try to be as good as I can at using social media to try to grow my audience?
Yeah.
Because I hate that feeling. I hate the feeling of even trying to grow my audience.
Yeah.
Like, to me, it feels like I'm manipulating people. But if I could just get it in my head to try to be good at it, I'm sure that I could try to be good at it. But for some reason, I just feel bad about it.
Yeah, man, and that's the thing. It's like I get the same way. Like I find myself, and I don't get me, like I act like I don't care about anything, and I'm just like happy-go-lucky and whatever. And like I'm not. Like it's a self battle a lot with the urge to care about what people think, because I feel like I catch myself in starting to, they're successful, and I get back into that train of thinking. And like I earlier in the podcast I was just talking like I'm kind of just like whatever, but like it's a battle. Like it's a trained thing. Like I get caught up in. Everybody gets caught up in it, but the big thing that I feel like that I'm good at is being able to acknowledge it, realize it, and then just be like, okay, let's dial it back. Like it's not the most important thing in the world. Like go through a list of things that are 10 times more important than social media posting. And it's like, it matters, because people need to know who you are if you're really trying to get out there and have things paid for. But then also too, it's like, hey, like at the end of the day, I should not be losing sleep over this.
Yeah.
And I think there's a healthy balance, I think, is really what I was trying to say, like to get across, like with everything. It's like, put in the work. If you love it, it's not really going to be work. You're going to enjoy it. And if you can bring other things and other aspects of you into it, that's only going to multiply, for example, like the following situation. It's like, for me, it's like, I got people who know me as the car cow and messing with cars. Mm-hmm. They don't even know I play music. They just know they don't listen to my music. They know I play, but they don't listen to it. And they just know because I mess with cars and it's, older guys. And they got people who are just like, oh, you mess with cars? And it's like, yeah, like I do a lot of stuff with cars, and it's a big part of what I do and what I enjoy. And it's like, wow, I didn't even know that, man. And but then they get on my page and they're like, dude, like you actually mess with cars. And I was like, yeah, like It's like, it's a mental battle to where it's just like, hey man, like, and I think it's the regimen of knowing how to acknowledge what's unhealthy, what's healthy, and being able to come back to like, all right, bigger fish to fry. There's, at the end of the day, this is nothing. This don't mean crap. And like, if you can still love music or still love what you're doing without that stuff, then you truly love it.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. But no, like I get what you're saying. Like how do you grow a fan base? And it's like, because I've been slowly. It's just like for me, it's like slowly getting up there, and it's like then I look at some other people, and it's like one day they got, I don't know, like 7,000 followers, and then the next day they got, or not next day, but over a short period of time, they're like, hey, they got like 10,000.
Yeah.
Like, well, what the hell did they do? Like, what are they doing that I'm not doing? And then it becomes the game of self-doubt. Well, I must not be good enough. And then it's like, or the envious thing of like, well, I know I'm better than them. And then you get into a really slippery slope and do that, and the self-comparison game. And it's just, I think the best thing to do is to focus on yourself and your craft and what you are wanting to be good at. And if you've done your due diligence and you've done everything that you can do possible, everything else will take care of itself.
Yeah.
That's just that's the motto I live by, or the phrase I live by, I guess.
I 100% agree with that. I get mad at myself because it's like there's a part of me that defiantly has been like, fuck social media. Like I don't like how all this shit works. Yeah. And really, I mean, I feel like the first 20 or 30 episodes of this podcast was kind of getting that out of my system and talking to people and ironing out the wrinkles in my head about all that stuff. Yeah. And I think I'm not as mad about it anymore, but I've never really put a lot of emphasis on it. And I feel like so behind, and I see how other people are able to manage to grow and stuff. And I do feel very, I don't know. And I also envy there's times where I envy other people's ability to grow. Yeah. There's times where I envy, like, some of the most successful musicians I know are able to be like, I am one thing. And it's like the total opposite of where this conversation started. They're like, I am one thing. I am a songwriter. That's all I am. Yeah. That's all I'm interested in being. And I'm like, I don't know what that feels like anymore. Yeah. Like I have all these other things about me that I when I start putting everything into songwriting, it's like I have a bunch of poker chips. Yeah. And when I start getting tempted to put them all on songwriting, I start looking at all those other options, and I'm like, I can't abandon like everything else about me that there is. Like I have to bet on some of these things, not for the sake of fame or winning any chips back. It's just like I just have to keep those in the game, like in the game of who I am.
You got to water the other plants.
Yeah.
You got to. And I think, just what it sounds like to me is like you draw a lot of, just like me, you draw inspiration and you draw yourself of personality and everything from those other things. And like, it's a big part, and it's your identity, and like, it makes you up. And if you don't water those other plants, man, it's like they're going to die. And either you're going to be unhappy or they're just, and if you care about them enough or you don't care about them, they're going to just go by the wayside, and then you're reduced down to one thing. And again, some people are cool with that, and that's their deal. And then I guess like guys like us, it's like, it's kind of, that keeps us balanced, and it really, but to talk about that for a second, like there's guys, just like you're saying, there's guys who are one thing. They're the artist, and that's what they're known for. And then, I know, I guess like, for example, like, totally not an artist, but like Jay Leno, I was listening to podcasts, with the Joe Rogan podcast earlier, and it was talking, he was talking with, I don't remember who it was, but he was talking about Jay Leno, and like, everybody knows Jay Leno for being the late night host. And then Jay Leno loves cars. And like he don't care anything about like he doesn't care about celebrities or anything like he's like, dude, I like cars. Like I don't care. And like now he's doing his own show or had his own show with Jay Leno's Garage. And like that he's doing what he likes. And like no one ever knows that because everybody only knew him as that. But now he's found success in being him and being authentic to what he loves. And like that's to me that's the great thing. Like he has this huge car collection and all that stuff. But that's like I guess interpretation of like what you find success in one thing, and like if that's all you focus on, that's going to be what you know. But then if you step away from it and you focus on what you want to do, then you might find success in that. And it worked out for him, and I'm sure there's 1,000 other success stories like that. And
yeah,
I don't know, it just kind of there's probably a million. There's so many people. Again, there's not a right. There's more than one right way to do something. Or more one way to do a right thing. I don't know.
Yeah, I get that.
I'm trying to come up with cool sayings here. But no,
well, speaking of cool sayings, oh shit, we've actually been going for a while.
have we?
Yeah.
Man, I just like rambling.
I love it. It's been fun so far. I had one other curiosity. Do you want to take a breather or anything, or you want to keep rolling?
I'm cool, man.
Okay.
I'm cool. Yeah.
Okay, then maybe this might be sort of the area in which we start to wrap up.
Yeah.
So as you mentioned, I don't know if these had to do anything with each other, but speaking of like multifaceted people, you talked about doing some touring with Morgan Wade, who is somebody who I find really interesting because she's I think she kind of took a shift into being her true self.
Yeah, for sure.
And now she's like within her persona as an artist, she puts out this visualization of like working out, being healthy and all this shit. And also like I saw a funny thing. She did like some kind of commercial about wearing Jordans on stage or something.
Yeah.
Or something. Anyway, setting all that aside, I think she's a really interesting character. But you and I kind of discovered accidentally when you first got here that we both have given up drinking, at least for a time period or something. Yeah. We talked a little bit about health. I wonder if that was something that you'd be willing to kind of talk about your perspective on health as it relates to this whole lifestyle that's
for
traditionally been considered one that is unhealthy.
Yeah, so like, obviously like you play in bars, you play and shows like that, and alcohol, drugs and everything are always around. And if you're not careful, again, I like to learn and I like to look at people that have come before me. And you always hear the guys, especially in our area of music and genre, the guys that were doing all the drugs and drinking all the alcohol back in the day, and it's just like, dang, look at all the stuff they got into. And some people idolize that. And I'd be lying if I didn't say like I was growing up, I was like, oh man, that's cool, partying and hanging out. And like you live it, and then you realize there's really not a lot to it, and it gets old really fast, and it can wear you down really fast. And I find myself in the battle between definitely struggling to want to be like not drink as much and find the line and like not cross it. And part of me, it's just I don't know if it's an ego thing or if it's like I really can't pinpoint what it is, but I know a lot of people go through it. I got buddies that go through it all the time, and it's like it's a weird thing because it's like, to me, I need to be able, just like we were talking, I need to be able to know that I can stop drinking if I want to stop drinking. And it's the day that you can't, that's when you got an issue on your hands.
Yep.
And so it's good for me, like, and I'm not 100%, sober. Like I have a beer, I drink, have a whiskey or something, and I'll have a good time with my buddies, and we'll go out and cut up, and it's all in good fun. But no matter your intentions, if you can't turn it off, it's a bad thing. It's not good for you. And last year, and I didn't do it for the reason of just stopping drinking because I had an issue. But me and my wife were doing, we were on a little health kick thing, and we were trying to do. I had a lot of sensitivities with like gluten and things like that, and like I was just felt bad, And again, just like with our schedules, you get home at 3 a.m, then you got to wake up and go do something at 8. Not really a good situation, and we decided. Of course, she doesn't drink. She just that's not her bag. She's she's never really done that, and that's cool, and I love her for it. And like for me, it was like I was scared. I started getting scared because I was like, oh man, like what am I going to do at shows? That's when to me like it started hitting me, because it was like I'm concerned with giving up drinking right this second for the betterment of my health. And I'm sitting here saying this to myself. And I'm like, okay, the fact that I'm even saying this, I'm done with alcohol for a little bit. Like I need, if that's my concern point, that I'm worried about not being able to drink at the show. Well, I'm not worried about music and loving music. I'm worried about drinking. So I'm in it for the wrong reasons. So I need to recalibrate myself and hang out. So I went on like I want to say it's like 3 month sober, alcohol hiatus, and like really, man, I felt great. And then I just we stopped doing, we found out what we were sensitive to and everything, kind of adjusted our diets and everything. And then I was like, oh, I'm off the wagon again. I started drinking a little bit, and it just kind of but I was limiting myself and being very conscious. But then if you're not careful and you let your eye off of it for 1 second, that's when it slips back up and creeps on you. And so like I'm kind of doing the same thing now. I've gotten to a point where I'm like, all right, like, hey, I need to calm down again and reel myself back in. And it's a good thing that like, and I'm happy to be able to do it, very much so. But then, it's also, it's a sobering thing to where you're like, wow, like, okay, how much better do I feel? Because at the end of the day, it's poison. Yeah. And you can justify it however you want to justify it. And it's everybody's got a crutch of some kind, but it's a thing where like, me and my friends, we talk about it all the time, because everybody wants to be a better person. I feel like, I surround myself with my friends and everybody. We always talk about it. We're very open about it. And we talk about, man's like, hey, like, why do we do this stuff? Like, why do we drink as much as we do sometimes? And why do we kind of, like, we're not in college anymore. Like, it's a funny thing. One of my best friends, the day we graduated, he said, today we were toasting. He said, today we graduate from college, and today we're college kids. Tomorrow we're alcoholics. And it's a realistic thing, because you're in college. It's just what college kids do. And so you go through it and everything. But like, it's funny. Like, and I think being able to find the humor in it, and like, but also like knowing when to be real with yourself is a big thing. And people know to be able to know your limits and being able to respect the boundaries and know yourself and actually being honest with yourself is a big thing, because there's a lot of people who can't, a lot of people who won't let it go. But like me and my friends, we talk about it all the time, and we try to hold ourselves accountable. And like, if one of us is slipping up or, going to a dark place or something, we always try to like call it out and bring it to light, because you never know what someone's going through. And it's a big thing. And like mental health, and I think that's I was a big fan of Morgan before I even got to go on the road, before I knew her or anything. I was a huge fan of hers a couple of years ago, just listening to her music, and then her statement and her stance on everything that she's doing. And then being able to go out on the road with her and do that stuff, it was great. And I actually, like, it was funny because, long story short, I ended up helping her out last year during the summer with, I got an old Silver Eagle bus, and I drove her around for a couple dates because her tour bus company canceled her lease. And so I volunteered, because I didn't have any shows going on. I volunteered to let her use my bus, and I ended up driving her personally on my bus. So, and that was her letting me open up for, was a thank you.
I see.
So
that's pretty badass.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. And like, not a lot of people know. I don't really tell a lot of people, but like, everyone's wondering like, how did you get that? And it's just like, it wasn't anything crazy, man. Like, it was I offered to help, and then she said thank you, and that's it. And like, it was such a blessing and opportunity. Like, I thanked her. I was like, man, like, seriously, you didn't have to do that. So like, thank you. Like, this is great. Like, I love this. And like, again, it's like, and it would even more for me, like, just being a big fan of her music and being a big fan of her and what she stands for. And like, that's what was cool to me. But yeah, I mean, it's just like, I mean, I bet it's something I battle again, like battling with drinking and the stereotype of music, and like, hey man, like you don't have to like, get loaded every time you go play a show. And it's like not that, and it's not that it's your goal, but it's very quick can happen if you're not paying attention and you're not focusing on it, you know. And you know, for me, it's like, again, having these periods where I can take a step back and reevaluate and be honest with myself and know when enough's enough and be able to set the boundary.
Yeah.
And that, to me, it builds the mental toughness, and I think that carries over into making yourself a better musician, better person, better everything.
Yep.
And holding yourself accountable. So, but yeah, that's kind of.
Yeah. Well, I hear that, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I've taught, I mean, people know where I'm at, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm not silent about it, but I don't talk about it too much, I guess. But yeah, so I never really used alcohol on stage or at shows too much, and I was often the driver as well. So like, I would have a drink or something while we were playing, but for me, it was often a sleep aid. And so when I'd get to the hotel or wherever we were staying, then I would pound drinks and pass out.
Yeah.
But that happened at home too. And then it started happening like to excess, where it became a thing where I started sleepwalking all of a sudden. And I was like, that's fucked.
Yeah, that's
and
wild.
Weird shit started happening. And I learned that it was like induced from not reaching enough REM sleep because I was disrupting my deep sleep with alcohol or whatever. So I was fucking up my whole system and didn't know it. And so for a while I was just like, well, I'll learn how much I can drink in order to still have this sleep aid but not sleepwalk. And I did that for forever, and I just like kind of contained it right at this level that was like almost too much but just enough. And just randomly last year I kind of embarked on a new theme of like, I don't want to consciously do things that are sort of bad for me in a way that's like kind of exactly what you're talking about. Like, I identified, like, I knew it wasn't the best thing for me to be using alcohol this way.
Yeah.
And instead of being okay with doing what was not the best thing for me, I started trying to practice a mentality that was like, why don't you start trying to do the shit that is best for you?
Yeah.
And because of Rogan and because of Tom Segura and that whole crew of guys, October came around and I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to do Sober October along with them just as a way to fucking do it.
Yeah.
And know that they're doing it. They're being inconvenienced and doing this like health thing.
Yeah.
And I'm going to try to do it too. And then I just never went back. Like, as soon as I learned how to function without drinking at night, I was like, whoa, this is like way fucking better.
Yeah.
There's certain things that are hard about it, but it's way fucking better. And so that has trickled into other things too, man. Like, just practicing a mentality of like, I'm not going to choose the coping mechanism.
Yeah.
Instead, I'm going to choose the road that gets me away from the bad feeling. I think that's been the theme for me.
Yeah, dude, that's awesome for sure. And I think that's we're similar in the thing, because talking to my personal experience is just like, when you're a college athlete and you're brought up in sports your whole life and you're working out all the time. Of course, I was like high school. I was like 185 soaking wet, and I was a stick. That was my nickname, Stick. I was like 6'3", just skinny, and like, you're in shape and you don't realize how much it affects you, so you don't see the physical results. And like, for me, it's been so hard. Like, being a musician, you don't have to be freaking ripped. You don't have to be in tip top shape. You can kind of, it's like, it doesn't require a lot of, I mean, you got to be physical on stage and get into it and everything, but like, doesn't require you to bench press 300 pounds. Not saying that I ever did, but like, it's like, it's been hard for me to re-grasp that healthy physical side of life, because again, it's like the schedule is so hectic. And kudos to Morgan for being able to do it, because like, she puts in the work again, when no one else is looking or doing it. And a lot of other people do too, I'm sure. But like, I'm in my battle right now personally where I'm trying to find the, I guess it is motivation, but like I'm trying to find what's going to work for me to get back to the regimen of working out. And because it's like before it was, the motivation was, well, I got to be in top physical shape for sports to compete.
Right.
And now it's like, well, I don't have to be, I really don't have to be. And in fact, I can have a few beers and I'm cool and I'm succeeding.
Yeah.
I am doing it, and it's like, at first I was a good mindset or okay mindset, not a good mindset, but it was what's the word I'm looking for? Acceptable.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, okay. Like, yeah, that's cool. But now it's like, dude, like you're going to burn yourself out and you're going to get burned out real quick. And if you're not careful, you're going to make music about something that it's not supposed to be about. And, that's, I don't want to do that. And again, learning from other people and things that like, again, and the thing is that I take comfort in is like, I know I'm not the only one. I know I'm not the only one going through something like this or who's ever gone through something like this. So I know I find comfort in knowing that I can potentially go out on the internet and find another artist who's gone through the same thing, currently going through the same thing, or, what worked for them?
Mm-hmm.
What worked for them? What was their deal? And try to get some sort of coaching or goals to set or set myself up to where maybe I don't go that route.
Yeah.
And I can nip it in the butt before something bad happens.
I'm sure you'll find your motivation in your thing, and but for what it's worth, I'll share that for me.
Yeah.
Two of those things was
I'd love to hear
like,
it.
one was as superficial as this sounds or whatever, when I would get off stage or when people would like take pictures with me or of me or put videos up of me, I just saw myself differently. I saw that I had like my body looked different, and I was like, it started affecting how I felt when I was going on stage.
Yeah.
I started going on stage feeling self-conscious, which meant I was
100%.
performing in a self-conscious state of mind. And I was like, well, I can't sustain that. Like, I can't feel self-conscious on stage. So for years I've been like, oh, it's on the to-do list to like start exercising and shit like that.
Yeah.
But I never would do it until finally it started to feel like, oh, it's affecting how I feel about myself when I perform at this point by not exercising. And the other thing that honestly I think following people, this is the good part of what it is to follow people on Instagram or whatever.
Yeah.
But following people like Morgan, I was seeing what looked to me like the benefits of somebody like her putting in the time she does, like working on her physique and everything.
Yeah.
And I started associating it with like, it's probably easier on you when you travel and when you are faced with a bunch of decisions on the road and all this shit and lack of sleep and all this shit.
Yeah.
All of the hard parts of this life is probably a little easier if you keep yourself in shape. And also like something like diet, like if you have rules for yourself, like what I do is eat a shit ton of protein and fewer carbs, then you're not telling yourself, that it's a normal thing for you to just like go through Wendy's and fill up on a large order of fries or something like that. Like you simplify some things. And for me, it was important to point that shit at, this is how it's going to help you perform better. Like I had to do that in order to actually find the discipline to do it. Because otherwise I probably would have been like, why can't I just kind of stay at home and not care?
No, dude. And it's like you saying that. It's so funny because it's like, I think a big part of like, it's the analysis paralysis situation for me to where it's like, dude, I know the work now that I've let myself go this. I know I'm not, I'm overweight in my eyes. Like, I just know what I used to look like. And just like we were saying, like, you have this perceived image of yourself and you're just like, damn, like, where'd I go wrong? Like, what am I doing? And then you're like, but then you start thinking it's daunting to be like, all right, so like I know the work that I had to put in beforehand when I was doing this stuff, and I had all the motivation in the world, and I still hated it. And now you're at like, I know I don't have to put in, like I know I don't have to do that, but I still want to look good. And then it's like, I mean, it's a self battle thing, and it sucks, and it's part of it. And like, I think that, like I joke with my wife about it all the time, because it's like, and she's super motivated with what she's doing now, and like, and like for me, I'm just like, it's like I know I'm being a piece of shit right now. I know I am. Like I'll go to Taco Bell, dude, and I'm like Mexican pizza all the day, and like I know I'm doing it, and like I laugh about it while I'm doing it, because I'm just like, dang, like I'm really not doing good with eating. And like I'll do, the thing is like I am 100% in or not. I cannot teeter the line of like, well, I'm eating healthy, but I'm not working out. It's like, dude, I am in or I'm out. I can't like and it's because I'm half crazy, because I'm just like, it's the same thing with music. It's like I'm either balls to the wall going at it, and I'm just like foaming at the mouth trying to find the next thing to do, because, and it's like, I don't know if it's just like, I don't feel accomplished unless I'm doing it that way. And if I'm halfway doing it, well, that's counterproductive to me.
Yeah.
And it can be a very dangerous mindset, and I know it is. And it's funny, because like I'm aware of all this stuff, but I'm just not acting on it.
Yeah.
But it's like, I know that I need to work out. I know that I need to go run. I know that I need to eat healthier, and I know what my macro, and like all the macros and all that stuff, and I know what it needs to be, because I've done it. But it's just like, I know the work that I'm putting. I feel like I don't have enough time, and this is again, and I know it's all bullshit, but it's like I feel like that I'm putting so much time into other things that I cannot focus on that. It's like I simply have too much. I don't have enough time in the day to focus on music, cars, marriage, life, and health. Yeah. And health is, and then but ultimately that's literally the number one thing that is important for all these things. And like, dude, I wrestle with myself all the time, because I'm just like, dude, I am just so full of shit, because I just sit here and I'm like, and like I'll argue with my wife. I'm just like, I just don't have time. And then it's just like, I can make time. I don't want to make time, because it's just so much easier. But it's less time consuming.
Yeah.
It's hard. And it's like, I've heard people say, it's like, dude, working out's hard, being out of shape, and then having to go, getting so far out of shape to where your body starts breaking down on you. That's hard.
That's hard.
Choose your hard.
Yeah.
And like, I know it. And it's like, I'm at the point, I'm not stupid. Like I'm at the point, like I'm gonna get back into it, and I keep waiting on a schedule change is my thing. And it's not ever going to happen. And it's like, I talk so much shit to myself and my friends, and we all talk about it. And it's just like, I think I have to incur being such a, just in such a bad position so long, to where I'm finally like, all right, here we go. Like,
that was me.
Let's go. Yeah. And so, and it's like, but again, it's like, the first time I really went on a health kick was back in college, after I gave up sports, because then it was like, dude, I ain't got to go to 6 a.m. workouts to do this, nothing. I'm like, yeah. And then that's when I was like really starting to see myself, like just kind of like I was getting a beer gut from not working out and drinking all the time and hanging out and doing college stuff. And we were up at Sugar Mountain snowboarding, and dude, like my legs cramped up. I made 3 passes, and then I fell at the bottom of the mountain, and I bruised my gut, bruised my fat, and I was laughing, because I was like, I'm so out of shape, I bruised my stomach just by falling. And then that really got in my head, and I was like, it sent me off like the edge, because I was like, I was like skinny fat, so I just had a little beer gut, but it was like a big self-image thing. It was bothering me, so I was like, that's enough. And like literally, I went on this whole spell of working out, and I got into like really good shape in a matter of months, and then I got, I went, ooh, squirrel, and went and started playing music, and then really got into it. And then it was like, it wasn't the most important thing, but it comes in waves. But man, it's like, I think it's one of the things where it's like, all right, I think I'm finally going to ride this one in, and like, let's be about it. That's kind of the way I'm looking at it. It's just like, I'm so tired of back and forth, because it's like, I feel so good when I am motivated and really working towards that goal. And I feel like when you do it, and I'm sure you could say the same thing, everything starts working together.
Yeah.
And everything starts like meshing and just it feels good. It doesn't feel counterproductive. Everything feels like it's going for the right direction, the right goal, and you know, to being the best you. Suddenly things don't feel so burdenous, if that's even a word, but
Yeah.
it might be.
Burdensome, maybe.
Burdensome. I don't know, whatever.
One of them.
Such
two.
a burden. There we go. But yeah, man, it's like,
I hope you're not too hard on yourself, by the way.
I mean,
you know.
I'm tough on myself, but I I let it go.
Yeah.
And it's just because I hold myself to a certain standard, and
Standards are good.
they're good, but
You know.
but again, it's like I've learned to in the exercises and just in the way of thinking, like with everything else, like, you know, we can be hard on ourselves at sometimes, but also too, it's like if you can appreciate for where you're at and know that you have the ability to change and it's never too late,
Yeah.
and you can talk to someone and everything. That's the thing for me. I've been very fortunate to have that mindset and think of things like that, and have fun with it, like, and joke about it. It's like, dude, I know I'm out of shape. If you asked me to go run a mile right now, I'd run it in probably 10 minutes, but I'd be down for the next 3 days.
Yeah.
You know, but like, it's never too late. Like, you can always make a change in your life, and I know that, and that's kind of the way I look at it. It's like, all right, like, hey, like, you know what? Keep eating bad, and this is me for the past couple months. Keep eating bad, keep drinking, keep doing that, and see how long you're going to last with it. And then I'll finally reach the point where it's like, all right, no more. Like,
Yeah.
I can't do this, man. Like, it's not sustainable.
That's how it was for me, man. It's like I couldn't just flip the switch.
Yeah.
And when I found the right time to flip the switch, it worked. And you know, there's tons of stories out there, and I'm
Yeah.
no guru on this shit because I'm kind of new in this world.
Same,
But you know, I think as much as it sounds like you're very focused on being there for the things that you're passionate about,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure if it proves that this is like something that matters for you,
Yeah.
I'm sure you'll figure your road out.
Yeah, and I think sometimes, man, it takes, unfortunate, like, no matter how much you look at someone else's path and trying to learn from it, unfortunately, sometimes it takes going through it yourself to really understand it and understand the weight of it. And some things you're able to just kind of know not to go near just from looking at people, but also, like, for this, man, this is my path, and like, I know it, like, and it's, you know, you hopefully catch it before it becomes too serious or anything. And I know it's, you know, we're just talking about joking, like, getting in shape. I mean, what's a few extra pounds? But like, ultimately, it's a reflection on maybe other things in life. So it's like, again, being able to hold yourself accountable is really the main lesson, and kind of what I'm kind of looking at. And it's kind of a deep thought. It's a deep thing, and you know, but again, coming to terms with it and understanding it is really, really wild. Cause like, I don't know, like, there's a time for being serious, but you got to find the humor in everything in life. I feel like is the way I look at it. Is, you know, you can't take life too serious, cause it's like, dude, at the end of the day, we're all gonna be gone one day, and it's what, you know, it's just, I don't know, and like. And then I think about that. I'm like, well, no one's gonna care if I'm ripped and I'm dead. Like, no one gives a shit about that. But then again, it's like, well, like, hey, I might be around a few more years, and I don't see it right now. The reason why I need to be around a few more years, but there's a bigger plan at hand, and I don't know, man.
Yeah, it all just is about whatever makes you feel most optimized. You know? Whatever.
Yeah.
For me, again, it was just about like, I think I can do more as a performer.
I think
this way, you know. But there's also other arguments to be made. You know?
Yeah. Whatever your reason, man, it's if you're doing it, that's great. But as long as you can justify it and you can sleep with yourself at night about it, and that's the big thing. And no matter what the motivation is like, it's a find what works for you. And that's I guess like I said, I'm in the middle of it. And I think we're on the same page with it. It's just like, you know, it's a counterproductive thing to some extent.
Yeah.
But again, you got to be careful, because they go hand in hand in this business, and I think, but this is also the business where it's acceptable.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, if it were another job, like a corporate job or something, and you're doing that, well, you know, it might, your work ethic's going to reflect, and it's going to be, it's funny how we can categorize what's acceptable and not. And that's a thing that I think about too. And I've had buddies that I played for. It's just like, hey, you're not drinking before a show. You don't show up to work drunk.
Yep.
Or anything. So you're not drinking before a show. You're not going to do any of that. Like, and after the show, you want to have a drink. That's cool. But like, we're up here to work. We're up here to do something.
Yep. And I had to deal with that a little bit to some degree. I mean, not in a way that's like, whatever. Just had to have those conversations before, and I don't think this person was guilty of that. But there's a thing about that, kind of like what you were alluding to earlier. There's like a romance about the artist and about the addictions that come with that.
Yeah.
And it's like, and for me, like I was kind of saying, like, I knew I had something in there in me, and I was like, I want to be a productive artist.
Yeah.
But I think I'm done romanticizing the destructive side of it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
I
for
want
sure.
the healthy side of it, and I want to be sustainable. And I already lived past 27. That part's an accomplishment. So now let's live to 87.
Yeah, exactly.
Something like that.
Exactly. And I think, man, just like with all things, there's a healthy balance. There is such thing as too much of something, whether it's good or bad. And a lot of, again, there's people who they don't know the limit and they'll test it. And then there's people who find the limit and respect it and are able to walk away and make a lifestyle change because of it. And being self-aware of your situation is a big thing, is a really, really cool thing. And again, being able to step away being able to tell yourself to step away, then actually acting on it and stepping away is a big thing that goes underappreciated. And I feel like just from being in the places we are, and and a lot of people don't really want to see it, because they're either fighting the demons themselves and they want to bring you down, not out of spite or anything, but they just don't want to feel alone, like they're the ones having to deal with it. And so it ends up being like a vicious cycle with other people, and whether it's bandmates or friends or people just at the bar. It's like, man, like, I like so and so much better when they were drinking. Like, they don't sound the same, and then like they want hey man, like, you want a drink? Nah, I don't want one. Oh man, come on, and then it's like they're fighting their own thing, and like, but again, you got to be able to realize that, like, don't worry about what they're doing. You got to worry about what you're doing.
Yeah,
it boils back to that. Just worry about what you're doing, and that's all that matters.
I think that's the theme of the episode, and I love that theme, because it's a world of a lot of comparisons, a lot of metrics, and the most important things you got as artists out there is your health and your sense of being true to yourself.
Yeah,
and I love that shit.
Yeah, man, it's a big thing. I think we definitely relate on a lot of those topics, and it's a cool thing to talk to someone about it and share those experiences and mindsets and things like that. So.
Yeah, well, I guess with that said, we can wrap it up. Marble is ready to walk, I think.
Yeah.
She's showing herself. I appreciate your time, for real, and for just like spending the time to relate as artists and everything, and sharing your perspective, man. It was really valuable just to hear all the cool shit that goes on in your mind, and thank you for sharing it all.
Yeah, man. Thank you for having me and listening to me ramble for however long it was.
It didn't feel like a ramble.
No, man. I get in my head sometimes, and I'm just like, I gotta get it out, and then it's like, I just made no sense for about 20 minutes, and then it's just part of it. But but no, I appreciate you having me, dude. I had a fun time.
Hell yeah, man. Awesome. Well, we'll do it again sometime.
Yeah, for sure.
All right.
All right.